Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The Forbidden Instrument. In the sultry haze of a summer evening in 1933 Berlin, the city's indifferent hum concealed the tremors running through the hearts of its inhabitants. The air, thick with both possibility and dread, carried the distant echoes of orchestras playing within gilded concert halls, an art form now shadowed by the rising storm of hatred. Among the restless crowd moving through Unter den Linden was Ruth Bernstein, a young Jewish musician whose world had once been defined by melodies and hope, now gradually shrinking beneath the oppressive gaze of the Nazi regime. Ruth's life had been symphonic from the start. Born into a family where music was as essential as air, her father was a concert violinist renowned across Berlin, her mother a piano teacher who nurtured every note with gentle patience. From the moment Ruth could grasp a bow, she was cradled in the intimate choreography of strings and sounds, the violin becoming an extension of her spirit. Those early lessons were tender and flawless, each vibration between bow and strings a thread connecting her to a beautiful, harmonious world. But as the decade turned, the scales changed. The Nazi Party's ascent to power darkened the city's colors. Anti-Semitic decrees chipped away at everyday life, and Jewish artists were barred from performing in public spaces, their talents smothered beneath the regime's cruel policies. Ruth's world, once vibrant as a flourishing symphony, began to unravel in silence. Concert invitations ceased, music halls locked their doors, and whispers of deportations hovered like ominous fog. One evening, after months confined to her cramped apartment on Prenzlauer Berg, Ruth sat alone, cradling her violin, a customs-tracked instrument crafted by her grandfather. This violin was more than wood and strings, it was the repository of generations, their dreams, their sorrows. The varnish was cracked near the scroll, and the fingerboard was worn from decades of faithful play. Yet tonight, it was heavier than ever, not just a musical tool but a forbidden treasure. Her thoughts were interrupted by a frantic knock on the door. It was Jakob, her closest friend since childhood, his eyes wild with urgency. "Ruth, they're rounding up more families. It's not safe anymore. You have to leave, now." His voice trembled. Ruth nodded, the violin shrinking suddenly in her arms as cold determination settled over her. She had heard rumors of underground escape routes, of trusted sympathizers willing to risk everything. But the Nazi surveillance was tightening, even the smallest mistake meant ruin. The violin had to be concealed or destroyed, a sacrifice to protect both her life and the legacy she carried. That night, under the soft watch of the moon, Ruth carefully wrapped the violin in layers of cloth and hid it beneath the floorboard beneath her wardrobe. The ancient hardwood groaned softly under the weight, as if understanding the gravity of the secret it concealed. The next morning, with a worn suitcase and a heart full of fear and hope, she set out along the shadowed streets, slipping past propaganda posters and saw patrols. Her journey was a tightrope walk between life and death. At every checkpoint, she wore a mask of calm, hiding the quiver in her hands and the silence in her soul. She traveled through obscure alleys and crowded train stations, always mindful that betrayal lurked in any glance. Along the way, countless memories surged within her. The first melody she played for her mother, her father's proud applause, the warmth of communal celebrations. Ruth's destination was a small village on the outskirts of Germany, where rumors spoke of a network aiding Jewish refugees. The village was a fragile haven, its people risking everything to shelter those the regime hunted. Upon arrival, she was struck by the simple beauty of the countryside, fields bathed in sunlight, the chatter of children playing, the distant tolling of church bells. Here, war seemed a distant nightmare. In the village, Ruth met Elsa, a kindly woman who ran a modest café that doubled as a gathering place for those seeking solace and strength. Elsa's eyes sparkled with quiet resolve, and her embrace felt like a protective shield. "You are safe here," she said softly, "for now. But you must be cautious. The Nazis' reach is long." Days slipped into weeks, and Ruth found refuge in a new routine. She helped Elsa run the cafe, immersed herself in the lives of those around her, but never spoke of music or her past. The violin remained hidden beneath an old floorboard in the attic, forgotten to all but Ruth. How cruel it was to silence the instrument that had once sung through her very veins. One evening, as the village gathered beneath a blanket of stars, a traveling musician arrived. A man named Elias, his face weathered but eyes bright with passion. He had heard stories of forbidden music played in secret and sought those like him who refused to let tyranny silence their art. When he met Ruth, he sensed the undercurrent of sorrow and resilience in her demeanor. Under the veil of night, away from prying eyes, Elias coaxed Ruth to join him in a secluded barn. There, amid the scent of hay and earth, he brought out his violin. The instrument's voice cut through the stillness, a sound both fragile and fierce. Encouraged, Ruth revealed her own hidden treasure. With trembling fingers, she untied the cloth and drew the bow across the strings. The note that emerged was raw, aching with memory and longing. It wove through the barn like a thread of light, stitching together fragments of a shattered world. Together, they played duets of defiance, melodies carrying the hope of freedom and the weight of loss. For the first time in months, Ruth felt her spirit soar again. Music was no mere indulgence, it was resistance, an assertion of identity in the face of erasure. Word spread quietly within the village of these secret concerts, moments when the community's heartbeat pulsed in synchrony with the violin's lament and joy. But danger was never far. One bitter winter night, strangers descended upon the village, their uniforms stark against the snow. Ruth and Elias barely escaped the raid, fleeing through woods thick with frost and fear. The violin was slipped into a hollow tree, a temporary grave for the forbidden instrument. Months passed in whispered caution. Ruth and Elias became wanderers, moving through cities and countryside, always one step ahead of the Nazi patrols. In Paris, they joined an underground network of artists and intellectuals, their gatherings vibrant with coded songs and brave defiance. The violin's voice lit hidden corners of cafes and basements, a beacon for those longing for freedom. At last, in the spring of 1939, as shadows lengthened over Europe, Ruth and Elias crossed into Switzerland. The alpine air was crisp and cleansing, a stark contrast to the turmoil left behind. There, among exiles and refugees, Ruth reclaimed her life and her music, performing with ensembles that celebrated resilience. Her violin, battered but intact, came alive once more. Every note she played was a tribute to those who had vanished, a testament to survival, and an echo of a city where music had once dared to dream amid darkness. As years unfolded, Ruth's story, a narrative of a forbidden instrument defying tyranny, resonated beyond borders, inspiring generations to remember that even in the bleakest times, the human spirit's song endures. For more stories, like and subscribe.